Hi, I'm Alden. Of course, you know me from Good Twin, Bad Twin. Today, we have the honor of speaking with a hip-hop legend, Mr. Kool Moe Dee. Thanks, Mr. Moe Dee, for meeting with us today.
Cool.
I have to get over my starstruck because it's a pleasure of meeting you or this opportunity to sit down and talk with you. Like I told you before when we were speaking outside, you have been the face of hip hop as far as, or the foundation of hip hop since the beginning. Like you said outside, it's been 40 years.
Yes.
How does that feel to be the foundation or the? Does it?
I actually don't think about it in that context. For me, it's just appreciation. I think one of the things that literally happens, and Quincy Jones gave this to me. Whenever I say something I got from somebody else, I always quote the person. Okay. Quincy Jones says, as a young man, you go through stages as an artist and an entertainer in particular. And the first thing is you're trying to make it. You're trying to get somewhere. Then you get somewhere and you're going to make those mistakes because when you're hot, everybody knows you're going to do dumb stuff that young people do, especially if you get hot young enough or whatever. Then you have to go through a cooling period. And then at some point, when you're older, you have to understand it's your responsibility to give back. So for me, from the quote-unquote legend space, I don't look at it from, I'm the legend, I've been this. I look at it from the, what can I contribute now on the give back? And I think that's the other part of the equation from generation to generation. I wish we had a society or culture that would have it really naturally set up for the elders to actually give back to youth. And I don't mean like we got to give them money, whatever. I mean, just conversation, just wisdom, what to watch out for, know to, how to. I think one of the things that after being in it 40 years, I'm doing my 40-year anniversary in 2020. I think is something to be remiss that we don't have relationships, and I'm talking inter-hip-hop relationships that say an older artist can come even to a younger artist and say, hey, I want to do my 40-year anniversary tour. I shouldn't have to go outside of hip-hop to be able to do that. Right. I should be able to literally go to, and I'm not saying it's Jay-Z's responsibility, but I should be able to go to Jay-Z or Will Smith and say, hey, we want to do X, Y, Z, do blah, blah, blah. How much could we get you guys to get in to do whatever? And we could be self-inclusive. I think having conversations like that for the next generations to come, because they're going to get here at some point, and I think people don't really pay attention to that. You're all getting older, and if the clock stops, it's a whole different ball game. But hopefully we're all getting older, and at some point, the 20-year-old will have his 40-year anniversary, and he would be able to do something because the industry doesn't set it up for us to ever sustain ourselves on a certain level. Very few make it to, say, the Will Smith or the Jay-Z level. And how do you sustain in the meantime to not only do your craft or do your gift or do your joy or your bliss, but to make sure that you actually are having some kind of fulfillment in your life on that level. So I don't really think of it from a legendary space. I think of it from what could be done to still tweak and change things for the better.
Is that a industry thing or a personal thing that artists don't have the longevity?
Well, it's a combination of both on one level, but what I think, and I try not to turn this into a soapbox, but we have a situation of oppression that has an infrastructure to keep us at certain levels, financially, psychologically, just socially. We're not being pushed forward or taught how to move forward on a certain level, and I think that's by design. So to me, that's when I say it's a responsibility as an elder to give it back. I absolutely would love to talk to some of the young and up-and-coming artists about, you need to do this, you need to do that. Watch out for this. Maybe you could do this and this could do something else because it'll pay off in the long run.
Do some of the artists, young artists, reach out to you at all?
There's some that reach out, but again, to me, the responsibility is still on the elders. We have to find a way to break through, because when you're young, you don't have the historical perspective yet, because you couldn't get it unless you studied history or you have somebody in your family or in your circle to tell you what's going on. Like, I don't think anybody even makes a connection with all of the great music, and you can go from Billie Holiday to a lot of the jazz greats or whatever, and then you go into rock and Jimi Hendrix or whatever. There's a through line of drugs destroying our people at greatness levels. I'm not saying just drugs in the hood and people. I'm talking about greatness. You see it touch greatness. So the fact that Billie Holiday loses her life and Jimi Hendrix loses his life, and people don't see the connection because it's different genres and different times. I'm like, no, there's still a through line of us coming up from poverty, having a talent, rising to the summit of the so-called industry we're in, and then still being destroyed by drugs. That message alone, that's one of the many, but that message alone is something that needs to be talked about, and not just talked at. Don't do drugs, stay away. No, real conversations so they can actually see the picture and make the connection. It's like, because I do hip hop doesn't mean I don't understand Jimi Hendrix and rock. Right. And doesn't mean I don't understand Billie Holiday and jazz. Right. There's a through line of connectivity of what destroys us, and it's not cool. By the way, why I named myself Cool, because I never did drugs in my life. I never smoked, never drank, never got high. And being ridiculed for that coming up is why I named myself Cool. I'm like, you're doing the thing you think is cool. I'm cool. Yeah, and it was much more harsh and brash than that. Hey, I'm cool. I don't do drugs. It was way more put your hands up kind of, but yeah, still, definitely. I just think those messages and those conversations are absolutely missed. We're missing having them right now.
Okay, and I do remember that one coming up that you didn't at the time, and that's what one of the things you stood for.
Oh yeah, I mean, the funny thing about that is, like, as hot as I was at the time, there was still a lot of backlash because I didn't do drugs. I went to school, graduated, got a college degree, and didn't use profanity in general in my dialect or on records. And there were a lot of people that was trying to make it like I'm not hood because I don't do that.
Right.
And again, only because I could really, and I want to stress this, because I could really fight, I don't have too much trouble. I tell people I'm Money Mayweather before Mayweather. I'm undefeated with the hands. So yes,
he was good with the hands. Yes. Well, with your you do a history of hip hop.
I'm doing my 40-year anniversary next year in 2020, and that's going to be the show I'm putting together is Dougie Fresh and Slick Rick, Big Daddy Kane, Houdini, MC Light, and myself. And then in every region we go to, when we get to Houston, we're going to add Scarface. Get to LA, we're going to add Yo-Yo. We get to Philadelphia, we're going to add Schoolie D, because I want to make sure that we're acknowledging people from different eras, because my anniversary isn't just about me. It's about my participation in the anniversary and choosing some of my favorite people that I think give the best shows on the planet to actually do a tour and kind of have some of these conversations. Because the other thing I don't want to do is just come into town, do a show, and get out of town. I want to make sure that we do things. Part of the money that we raise, I want to give to homeless foundations. I want to get with certain places in certain cities and see what they have going on and what we contribute, and give some of that ticket money back to them. So it's a bigger purpose.
Awesome. That's great that you give back. Speaking of giving back, you've worked over the years. You worked with some great artists. You just mentioned Will Smith, because and it's been a while ago, some years ago, but he did
Wild West.
Yeah,
10 years ago.
10 years, yeah.
10, it is 10 years. Literally, it's more than 10 years. 20 years exactly now. Yeah, 1999. Woo, time's flying. Yes, and that was 10 years after the original. But go ahead.
What was your thoughts on that? Having that record have that such success, the score and everything, the movie behind it.
I have Will Smith is one of my best friends in terms of hip hop in general, and I always tell people, I've told people for years, my best friends, people I regard as like a friend in hip hop, Will Smith, Dougie Fresh, KRS-One, Big Daddy Kane, and Rakim. Those are my people. Chuck D is also in that list, and Houdini also like brothers. So, which is another reason I chose those guys to go on tour with me also, because just the camaraderie and the understanding. I think the biggest thing that I'm trying to get done now is a TV show that really focuses on the other side of hip hop from the elder space, because I don't think anybody on the planet has any idea the depth of Will Smith. It's not just like a light guy who's having fun and making big movies and having a lot of success. When I talk to Will Smith and we have conversations, when I go with Dougie Fresh in particular and Chuck D, I have to put big blocks of time out because the conversation literally gets deeper than deep. And not the last time, but one of the last times that I was around Will Smith and the conversation just got deep is when Tupac got killed.
Okay.
The anger coming off him because he was very, not only heartbroken, it was just like the level that we don't get it on is phenomenal.
Yeah,
I know that's like, we really don't get it.
You don't get it.
We just don't get it.
Yeah.
And I think we were going to the MTV Awards or something to that effect. Because Tupac, he just died September. We might have been going to the MTV Awards, if I'm not mistaken. He was furious. And then the conversation we had was just talking about, again, is it by design? How much of it is our responsibility? How much is it is the artist? And then the circle, another thing, and that's another thing that comes from Quincy Jones. You really have to be very mindful, especially artists that are popular and start to make money. You have to be very, very mindful of who you have in your circle. Because a lot of times the things that happen to you happen because you have certain people in your circle. And in your circle, that dictates more because most people can't get to the actual artist. So they get to the people that know the man, that know the man, that know the man next to the man's man, and then those conflicts and relationships, if there are conflicts or relationships or whatever, start to reflect on the artists themselves. Right. So I think, and again, I had just done a movie, I remember this vividly, I had just done a movie called Gang Related with Tupac. And I had a conversation with him, and people didn't know the depth of him even. And he said to me, he was doing an album, and he said, I'm gonna do an album, I have the soundtrack to this. I'm gonna make sure you and Millie Mel are on the album because of what y'all did for hip hop. The fact that he was even thinking on that level was like, wow, he's one of the hottest artists on the planet at the time, and he wants to make sure that he puts me and Millie Mel on the album because he's in charge of it. That kind of thought process is what I'm talking about that's missing in hip hop on a certain level. We don't even get the passing of the baton or reaching back. And one more last thing, as you can see, Quincy Jones is my Yoda. If an artist is hot, if you give a newcomer a break and give an old timer a second chance, you never lose. Right, because you keep the ball moving. You keep it moving all the time. So whenever you get hot, always reach back and give somebody a second chance, and always give a newcomer a break, and you keep it going.
And that energy, that synergy.
Yeah, perpetual kinetic energy over and over.
Makes a lot of hits. Not just a hit, but you see Will Smith doing a lot of that. Macklemore. Mm-hmm. I thought of that when because you had an opportunity to work with him as well.
Yes.
What was that song? In that video, you wrote some bars for him, or?
No. It was his record. Myself, Grandmaster Caz, and Millie Mel did the record with him, and it was because, which was it was a catch-22 situation. I know a lot of people didn't understand the bigger picture, and they looked at it like it was some exploitation, and he was only doing it for credibility. I'm like, no, I have conversations with people. I do have issues with racial issues, but I don't just say white people are this because they're white. I like to talk to the people and see where they're coming from. Right. My conversation with Macklemore is the reason I did that record, right, because I saw where he was coming from, and then people got a hint of it on the next album when he dropped a record called White Privilege. It's like, you don't know the consciousness of this guy, where his psyche is, or what he's paying attention to. And the reason that he reached back to me, Millie Mel, and Caz in particular, is very similar to what Tupac said. He's going to the beginning of it from an artist's perspective to kind of pay homage and do justice or whatever. And Grandmaster Caz, who I actually have with me tonight, he said, man, literally, I made more money than I've ever made in my life off of a record project. Not that he made more money than that total, but off of being on a record project, and that's because it came from Macklemore. Right. And Caz has said, again, and I do the bloodline thing, it's Caz to Big Daddy Kane to Jay-Z. That's the actual lineage of that tree in rhyming or whatever. It would have been great if Jay-Z would have did that. We would have absolutely done it, and I said no, it wasn't his obligation, but it also wasn't his thought process. So at the end of the day, the fact that Macklemore thought to do it, and Big Daddy Kane has a hand in that because Big Daddy Kane knows his manager, or knew his manager at the time, and suggested that would be a thing to do.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That process. What are your thoughts on this in the tech world? We've had an opportunity to interview some tech giants. Angel Rich is one. In a few weeks, we'll have an opportunity to interview Miss Dawn Dixon. We've talked with her a few times, but we haven't had the interview yet. They use crowdfunding, or they used crowdfunding to get a lot of their capital. Mm-hmm. The only reason why I say that is because some of the projects or ideas that you guys may want to fund, maybe you guys can use crowdfunding to, maybe that's an idea.
Very interesting thought. And actually, is a very relevant and timely thought because in doing this 40-year anniversary, I've been a little bit frustrated in dealing with some of the corporate sponsors that I was going. That actually might be a very smart alternative.
The only reason I suggested, and I put some thought into it, I called it reparations preparation. Mm-hmm. If we, because we got a lot of money in our communities, mm-hmm. So many billions of dollars. I don't know the exact quote, how expendable cash, or whatever. But the point is, with crowdfunding, it's twofold. I invested in the product, so I'll go and buy the product, right. and I will also go tell people about the product. And then because I invested in the product, because I told people about the product will sell, and then I will be able to get my investment back. Right. As opposed to in the tech world, they have benchmarks. They have to sell a product. Once we get here, we get here. But in your industry, you guys' industry, you got a product you're putting out. You know when the product's going to be out, whether it's a movie or whether it's a record or something. You know when it's going to be put out. So you can see you can mark when the return is going to be for the individual. And again, that person is vested, whether it's for your record or whether it's for a movie. I think I can't tell, like you just said, you can't tell Jay-Z what to do with his money. Right. Much love to Jay-Z. I'm not tripping on that. Or I can't tell Will Smith how, but I was thinking if they used crowdfunding, that takes it to a whole another dimension, because now you're you're enriching the community, you're getting investment from the people that's buying your product, and then you're able to get your product out. So I don't know.
Interesting. And we will absolutely talk off camera about that very in depth.
But that was one of the reasons why I was like anxious to talk to some, because I was like, I don't know if the probability of it working, but I know it's available. That was one of the things that Obama did in his administration, loosen the laws of investing so that you can do crowdfunding. But anyway, so you got the show here tonight. Yes. What's in the future for it? I know you said you want to do some mentoring kind of things, but what else is in the immediate future for you?
Well, I have 2 television shows that I'm working on right now. Again, doing it the old school bootstrap way, but one is called Behind the Rhyme, and it's an interview show that gets into the depth of the artist as opposed to just, hey, your record was this, tell me about that record. No, it's like, let's get into the mindset. Why did you make that record? Why did you do X, Y, Z? And I'm doing it from a perspective, again, of old school and new school, because I think the separation is part of our deterioration in many ways. It's like, you can't just do new school because it's hot. There's a lot of guys that are hot that don't necessarily have enough to contribute to the conversation, other than I make money and this is my record and that's why I'm hot. The elders, in many cases, and I know who's who, so I can vet them myself, there are those that have a lot to contribute, and then there are those that are mad at the world because of how it turned out. I know how to balance that, and very clearly, as the interviewer in the case, dictate or should I say, sway the conversation in a way that's most productive. Because that's my thing at this point, is all about being productive. Productive information. You have tons for every Jay-Z or every Nelly or every artist that is hot or has been hot or whatever. There are thousands more that either have somewhere near the talent but no ideas and no opportunities to get through that. And not that that's the only way to do it. One of the things that happens is people don't look at the whole picture. For artists, say Jay-Z's an artist, but there's a manager, there's somebody behind the scenes that works this way, there's valets, there are other things in the Jay-Z movement that keep Jay-Z on the, and I would love to be able to, again, get that a message across to all entertainers or all artists, I should say, or all people that are interested in artistry or the entertainment industry, that there are different ways to be a part of this equation. And sometimes you have the wake-up call, because some of the best managers wanted to be artists, and they found out that they were better managers than they were artists. So, and I won't say any names, I know some of them too. So, but yeah, that's another thing, because everybody can't be the singer. You know, even in the Jackson 5, there was only one Michael. Right. But that didn't mean that the Jacksons couldn't have success and couldn't do things in the industry that they love. And, you know, one of the things is balancing your ego. Having an ego is helpful on one level, but it can be completely destructive on another level. And you just have to be able to do the work. And this is why it's so hard for younger people, because you're not aware of that yet. You're probably still figuring out where your ego is. But usually if you're moving from ego, you're usually making terrible mistakes in many levels, especially spiritually. I can guarantee you that.
How important is spirituality?
Spirituality is, to me, that's a dimension that we seem to have not paid attention to on a level since, again, back to the oppressor. I get into that all the time. I'm making there's a record coming with myself, Melly and Kaz, and hopefully we'll get this done. It's called Angry Black Men, and it's a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing. I'm talking about all the things that happen to us and how we're the angry black men. Like when you talk about the middle passage, it's like, so you snatch me, put me on a boat, take me in chains underground, and the guy that got on the boat is totally different because it's the trauma of the boat itself. You get off the boat, and then there's more trauma to add to that. And then there's a war, there's somebody that doesn't want me free, and I'm speeding through it, of course. Want me not to be free, I get freedom. And when I get freedom, you have this new thing, which is what a lot of the police force starts from. People that are now chasing the runaway slave that's no longer a slave based on the freedom papers, but they're not acknowledging it, so they're still taking you back to the plantation. And there's no technology at the time, so you just have to stay there. See 12 years a slave. You just have to stay there and deal with what it is, because nobody's talking to anybody on your behalf for anything to happen. So when I look at all of that, I'm like, on one level, I'm like, how dare you criticize me for not being patriotic when I have a totally different history than you have. Right. On another level, when you break that down, but beyond just the historical factor of it, you got to look at, we still have what I call cellular DNA, cellular memory. Those things are in us. We're literally with PTSD, post-traumatic slave disorder. Right. So on another level, black people are in a certain condition based on years of oppression and being passed down. And it's almost like you have a chemical reaction. If you want to get scientific, nobody's breaking the science down of what that trauma is and how trauma lasts and how a mother that gets raped can pass that trauma down to her daughter. Right. And we don't think that matters. I'm like, no, it does matter. The things that you have psychologically that you are affected by, that you may not even know you're affected by because of something that your grandmother went through. Right. And you don't get in your cellular memory, that stuff is affecting you on levels whatever. So I just think having conversation, I would say elevating conversations, which is the second show that I didn't talk about that I'm doing. It's called Freestyle. I want to have elevated conversations. We can use hip hop as the template or the launch point of it. But at the end of the day, it's about going much deeper than just the artist and just the music. Okay.
Hopefully both of your shows will manifest.
Oh, we're going to make it happen. We're going to make it happen. One way or the other, we're going to make it happen.
And be a huge success and impactful, because I can feel in your spirit that's what that's the point of them. But I'm not going to take up too much more of your time, because we know you have a show tonight, and we're grateful that you're here in our city. Welcome, Mississippi, actually. Thank you. And so Mississippi is not what you think of it is, so don't sleep on it. Don't sleep on us. It's a wealth of talent and money and opportunity here. Right. It's not as backwoods as people think it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, just for the record, I have to say that to cut you off 1 second. I never underestimate black people on no level. Just because it's in the South, it's like, I get New York's arrogance, or you Bama, you from the South. Like, that just means they talk different. That has nothing to do with their thinking. On levels of oppression and things like that, those things are affecting us in ways that they do. But that doesn't have anything to do with your ability to critically think your way out of a situation or into a situation. So, one of the biggest mistakes that we made in New York, and I understood it because I was a part of it in the 80s or whatever, calling people Bamas as an insult or disrespect or whatever because they were from the South. I'm like, you have no idea. And if you start to break this down and you go into other levels and you get into athletics and you get into the discipline and you get into the hunger that's driving them to do something or whatever, you have no idea how to calibrate how much greatness came out of the South. And truthfully, most of us have Southern roots no matter what we do. We still talk about our history if you really break ourselves down on that level. So you could say you're in New York or whatever because you're born there, but that's like starting history from 1962 as opposed to how far it goes back and what all of that stuff is.
Right, exactly. Well, again, Mr. Moe Dee, it's been an honor and a privilege, a childhood dream of mine. So
appreciate it, man.
No, thank you. Thank you. So wish you well tonight, and thank you again.
Thank you, bro.
Hi, I'm Alden.
And I'm Alden.
Thanks for following us. You can find us on Facebook at Good Twin, Bad Twin Unleashed, and also on Instagram at Good Twin, Bad Twin Unleashed.
Now don't forget to watch our YouTube page and make sure you like and share our videos. Also go to our Facebook page, check out our t-shirt line. We have several wonderful t-shirts there that helps us to continue to provide good footage for you. Thank you.